Poppy Playtime has a lot of lore and other interesting secrets, and in fact there's lots of information that most people do know about the game. However, there's also just as many things that seems like not many people really talk about. So today I made a full-blown Poppy Playtime iceberg using some different ideas around the internet, and I'm going to be explaining every single thing from top to bottom to see how many things you guys know. And to be honest, as a YouTuber of Poppy Playtime, even I didn't know about a lot of these things at first, so let's see how deep in the iceberg you guys can go. Anyway, starting at the first stage, we're going to be talking about Huggy Wuggy. Huggy Wuggy is the main character of the very first chapter, and while most unfamiliar would expect a game called Poppy Playtime to be specifically about Poppy, at first the only character we meet face to face is the blue monstrosity that's became even more of an icon than Poppy herself. PoppyPlaytime.com. PoppyPlaytime.com is just the website for all things Poppy Playtime, including their very own official merch. NFTs. Another surface level thing most people know about are the Poppy Playtime NFTs. The Poppy Playtime NFTs were 5 digital collectibles released around the time when the game first came out and was starting to first build hype, and the original point of them was to pay $15 to digitally own each of the game's in-game posters, with the additional incentive being that they all contained lore secrets. When these were released, they were incredibly controversial, and the developers very quickly had to stop promotion of the NFTs, deleting all tweets and other media relating to them, while notably still receiving some backlash because you can actually still buy the NFTs to this day, but they no longer seem to be promoting them or supporting them. Elliot Ludwig. Elliot Ludwig is the most renowned human character in the Poppy Playtime universe, and that's to be expected since he is the main founder of Playtime Co, the company behind the factory we visit throughout the game's 2 chapters. Mob Games. Mob Games are the developers behind Poppy Playtime, being a mix between popular animation channels Enchanted Mob and Zamination. Stella is Poppy. This is the very first theory about Poppy Playtime, starting all the way back in chapter 1. The theory suggests that the seemingly human Poppy doll was created by experimenting on the human character Stella Graber, who we hear about through VHS tapes. And the evidence behind this is because the voice actor of Stella is also the same voice actor of Poppy Playtime the doll, and also because in the VHS tape that introduces Stella as a character in chapter 1, she expresses unnatural desires to feel young again and seems to obsess over life, saying things like, "I really wish I could go back to being a kid," and your body just gets older and older and then you die, suggesting that of all people she may have been the most willing to be experimented on to become a forever young literal child toy. The toys are the workers. The main plot of Poppy Playtime is that the employees disappeared randomly and we are re-exploring to find out where they went. Because despite their disappearance, we are sent a note by them claiming to still be there. But how could this be? Because even when we do explore the factory, we don't see any humans or even dead bodies. Well, the toys are workers theory suggests that all the lifelike toys we see throughout the chapters are a result of different employees like the already mentioned Stella Graber being turned into the toys, causing their disappearance. This would explain why we don't see any of the employees and also explain why there's so many random lifelike toys. The tapes. The tapes are different audio clips hidden throughout the map that reveal different lore about the game, usually sitting out in the open with correlating colors. However, there are also a couple less obvious ones that hide around the map, revealing much darker things throughout the chapters that we maybe never would have found out otherwise. But nonetheless, these tapes are designed to be our look into the past of Playtime Co, and where we really get most of the clear, clean-cut lore out of the franchise, often getting to hear insider information about the toys and actual audio clips from the disappeared employees. Bendy and the Ink Machine. Bendy and the Ink Machine was a popular horror game back in 2017-ish for very similar reasons to Poppy Playtime. In fact, the 2 games are so similar that it's pretty safe to say that Poppy Playtime took a lot of inspiration from Bendy, as both the games are about exploring corrupt companies, studios, and factories to figure out why the inanimate objects of their imagination have suddenly came to life. The cameras. So before Poppy Playtime Chapter 2 was released, the developers came out with a website that allowed us to view Playtime Co security footage in real time, showing us some cool little secrets, including characters actually fully moving around the factory during the many hours the cameras were up. Experiment 1006. Experiment 1006 was an experiment the company was working on that supposedly had actually gone wrong. He was a mysterious creature reported for high intelligence and even violence inside of the factory, later on being revealed to be this seemingly innocent claw that takes away Mommy Longlegs in Chapter 2's cinematic ending. Jacksepticeye in Poppy Playtime. One of the tapes in Chapter 2 shows an employee on video speaking, and the character happened to be a cameo being played by none other than Jacksepticeye. Monsters and Mortals. A few months after Poppy Playtime's release, they would announce they would be collaborating with the multiplayer game Monsters and Mortals to add a DLC pack into their game of Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy, among many other different characters from other franchises. Kissy Missy is a good character. This is another kind of theory that suggests Kissy Missy is actually a good character, unlike the rest of the toys that try to actively hunt us down. Because inside of Chapter 2, when we are locked up behind a cage, Kissy Missy reveals herself and comes towards us. But in the end, when she comes to the locked cage, she actually just pulls the lever from the other side, allows us to pass through innocently, and leaves with no reward or ulterior motive, making people believe she may actually be a good character among the rest of the bad guys. The Poppy Playtime movie. So Poppy Playtime throughout the past few months has marketed itself through merch and other different endeavors. However, the most shocking one of all would of course be their very own Poppy Playtime movie that was officially announced back in April. This film is supposed to be worked on by Studio 71 and will be set at some point in the Poppy Playtime universe. There's no release date for the film or anything really. However, I can only imagine in the next couple years we will get one for sure. Mommy Longlegs is coming. So Mommy Longlegs is a character we all know and probably don't love from Chapter 2, but before she was revealed to the public, people put together the puzzles from the previously mentioned Poppy Playtime NFTs, and upon scrambling all the different clues, we were given a final solution that read the quote, "Mommy Longlegs is coming," confirming the character name Mommy Longlegs months before we knew any actual specific information about Chapter 2. Leith Pierre. Leith Pierre is one of the more obscure characters in Poppy Playtime because he is known as the head of innovation in Playtime Co, and we only hear from him about a couple of times. Most notably, we hear him when we first boot up the game and we are warned about the amazing security features in the factory by Leith himself.
Hi, my name is Leith Pierre. If you're seeing this, then you're trespassing.
Venge. Venge is an indie game created by another popular YouTube animator named Eckercoaster. And upon Poppy Playtime's launch, Eckercoaster made a Twitter thread claiming Poppy Playtime had stolen his game idea entirely, exposing many different game similarities while also bringing up past controversies between Eckercoaster and Mob Games themselves, making it seemingly plausible that they could have intentionally stole his idea. But nobody really knows for sure. Experiment 1170. Experiment 1170 was seen as the perfect experiment. He was smart yet obedient. And in fact, Experiment 1107 is actually just a code name for our good friend Huggy Wuggy from Chapter 1. Braun in Chapter 3. So we are already getting geared up for Chapter 3, which is set to release next year, and we actually already have a teaser trailer to show us a lot of interesting things about the chapter. Most notably, people are theorizing that Braun the dinosaur will be the Chapter 3 main antagonist, because in the trailer we see a dead Huggy Wuggy, which represents Chapter 1, a dead Mommy Longlegs, which represents Chapter 2, and finally we see a dead Braun the dinosaur, seemingly hinting that he will be in the next chapter. Not to mention that they also used Braun's color scheme on the gas mask shown later in the trailer, making it seem like that might be who we see next. Barry Glitch. When Chapter 2 was first released, the cart that we push around to re-enter the game station named Barry used to immediately soft lock the player in the location because he was unmovable. Betty Spaghetti. Betty Spaghetti is a real-life stretchable toy that is believed to have inspired Mommy Longlegs. Trailer differences. So throughout the trailers of the Poppy Playtime game, more specifically Chapter 2, we see a lot of differences take place from the trailer to the actual release. This includes things like different train room designs, character polishing, and even making some major character decisions like entirely changing the musical memory antagonist from Daisy the Flower to Bunzo Bunny. Poppy is Elliot's child. So while some people think that Stella from earlier in the Iceberg was the Poppy doll, a lot of people also think that the Poppy doll could be Elliot Ludwig's own child as well, because it is emphasized throughout the game that Elliot Ludwig had an unfortunate family member passing while working at Playtime Co, and after seeing that Playtime Co was experimenting with bringing life back into dead animals like rats, people theorized that the Poppy doll could actually be the family member that Elliot Ludwig had lost, using their previous experiments to actually bring her back to life in an immortal form as a doll. Playcare. Playcare is a somewhat somewhat obscure location that has never been seen inside of the Poppy Playtime universe, but it has been described multiple times as a very important place to visit throughout Chapter 2. And we actually presume we will finally be able to visit the Playcare location in Chapter 3 because we see a stop sign leading to it when we crash at the end of the chapter. And in a hidden voice line, Poppy Playtime herself had actually told us that visiting the Playcare is where we'll find the answers we were looking for. Experiment 1222. Experiment 1222 is simply just a code name for the character Mommy Longlegs. Poppy Playtime deleted costumes. Poppy Playtime recently announced they were going to make their very own costumes for Halloween this year. The only problem was that they were $80, only started shipping a couple days before Halloween, and were criticized for looking hilariously weird. After all this backlash, for unknown reasons, all traces of these costumes were erased, including tweets, Discord announcements, and of course, it is no longer purchasable from the store. Poppy Playtime Multiplayer. In the files of Poppy Playtime, there's a multiplayer folder that includes a character select screen, making Mommy Longlegs and Huggy Wuggy appear as selectable characters for a potential multiplayer mode in the future. Some people theorize that this is meant to be built for the as-mentioned Monsters Immortals DLC, but that DLC will only include the characters Kissy and Huggy and not Mommy, so this seems to be used for something else. Cardboard cutouts. Poppy Playtime throughout the chapters has plenty of cardboard cutouts of all of the characters, and a lot of them actually include voice lines that give us a look into their personality. However, at the same time, if we press these cardboard cutouts, we are given different scary messages from the toys themselves, like Bron the dinosaur calling himself the scariest dinosaur, or Cat Bee randomly lowering her tone telling us that we need to leave before going back to her high-pitched act.
You need to get out of here. Just kidding!
Poppy Playtime Kickstarter. Before Chapter 1 of Poppy Playtime released, Mob Games actually released a full-blown Kickstarter project to help fund this game. This project included different rewards like having your own poster inside of the game, with a pretty ambitious and hefty funding goal of $45,000. And the reason why this is seen as pretty obscure is because the Kickstarter only ever raised $200 and was canceled before completion anyway, so not very many people know this ever happened. Make me a part of him. This quote is something yelled by Mommy Longlegs before she is killed in Chapter 2.
You'll make me part of you!
And on the surface, it may be hard to understand what this actually means. However, when we do a little digging, we can theorize that this quote could be talking about characters like the prototype, since she refers to a male character saying, "Make me a part of him," which the prototype is actually labeled as. And the prototype figure is logged down throughout the chapter as being able to manipulate different parts in all sorts of different ways, being tested using laser pointers and alarm clocks to show its intelligence. Which makes us think that maybe Mommy Longlegs was warning us of his powers if he had collected the correct resources, which he may have already done when he grabbed her head at the end of the cutscene. Daddy/Baby Longlegs. Daddy and Baby Longlegs are some of the most obscure characters in Poppy Playtime. However, they do actually exist and are featured twice inside of the game. Once as a poster just hanging out in Chapter 2, and twice as the Mother's Day poster they posted about on social media with the same exact image. To be honest, we don't really know anything about these characters, and as of right now, they only really exist because they make for really clickable YouTube titles, but otherwise that's their only purpose thus far. Huggy Wuggy is still alive. In Chapter 1, we end off the Huggy Wuggy chase scene by dropping a box and watch Huggy Wuggy actually fall to his death. Or so it seems. Because theorizers have noticed in Chapter 2 there's a very specific unused vent, and in the same room we can actually see Huggy fur and blood around the railings, proving that Huggy Wuggy had fallen there and could have even maybe escaped through the Huggy-sized vent hole conveniently placed right next to his fall spot. Swap-imals. Swap-imals are a type of toy in Playtime Co that were supposedly some of the most successful toy kinds. And the way they work is they involve making toys that have swappable parts, hence the name. In fact, we actually create a swappable toy before meeting Huggy in Chapter 1. The drawings. In Elliot Ludwig's office, there were a bunch of different kid drawings where the children showed their love towards the toys that we see inside of Playtime Co. The rejected toys. Poppy Playtime has a lot of rejected toys. I'm not going to list them all here, however, inside of Chapter 2, we can see a few of them hanging around like Daisy the Flower, who was supposed to be in Musical Memory, and other comical characters like Sir Poops-a-Lot. The merch crisis. Poppy Playtime and their developers have been criticized in the past for all sorts of things like their official merch and other ways of of making money. However, among all this, there's been a constant battle between the developers and thieves. Because funny enough, most of Poppy Playtime's merchandising actually comes from bootleg knockoff Poppy Playtime dolls, coming in all sorts of different designs and colors that are sold all around the internet and even physical malls, causing it to at this point pretty much become a meme to see children walking around with their randomly colored Poppy dolls. And this is all while the developers have been desperately trying to take down a lot of these dolls on dropshipper websites like AliExpress, where people are buying these and selling them. Child orphan experimentation. Playtime Co. is theorized to have a dark history. However, the darkest and most obscure theory brings up the possibility that all the toys we see in the game are actually child orphan experiments. The reason people believe this is because Poppy Playtime has a seemingly out-of-place orphanage program seen throughout the entire chapter multiple times, where kids are supposedly meant to be brought to Playtime Co. to actually be taken care of. More specifically, orphan kids who don't have any parents to watch out for them. And also, this third chapter location we've already talked about multiple times, called the Play Care, seems to have a dark connection with children and experimentation, with the name sounding a lot like daycare, which is a place where children are watched over, hearing children scream at the grand opening of the location in the chapter 3 teaser, and also seeing the already mentioned gas mask in the teaser that is colored very specifically to match real children's gas masks used in past American wars that were originally invented to look less scary to children during the war, being a pretty historically accurate depiction of Playtime Co. using gas masks to experiment on children, while also making sure they're colorful and friendly looking to not scare them while it's happening. Apology. During the drama where Edgar Coaster called out Poppy Playtime for copying his game Venge, and the NFT drama among other things, the developers would release an official apology statement where they defended themselves while also saying sorry for their actions that they were getting a lot of backlash for at the time. Kissy Missy's head. Kissy Missy's head throughout the game has had many different conflicting shapes, sometimes being modeled in a heart shape like in the Monsters and Mortals DLC teaser, and in-game, for instance, she was actually just a reskin Huggy Wuggy with a normal head shape. Mary Payne. Mary Payne is the first and only real-life human name we can link back to a toy experiment, as in Chapter 2 it is confirmed throughout notes that the character Mary Payne was turned eventually into Mommy Longlegs. We don't know if she was a child, or if she was potentially an employee, or really anything about her, but she is the first 100% known person to be turned into a toy. Michaela Hyssop. Michaela Hyssop was another character who was supposed to be experimented on, and throughout Chapter 2 we can see notes of her being put through and graded on the different little mini games in the game station to test how fit she was for experimentation. In fact, while we still don't know if the experiment on her actually ended up happening, we can see that Michaela was being tested as a fit for the toy Candy Cat. Unused factory exterior. There is tons of unused Poppy Playtime content. I can make an entirely different video on it. However, the most notable is that there is an official render of the very outside of the Playtime Co factory, making it seem like we could either in the future be going outside of the factory, or that potentially in the first Poppy Playtime chapter we were supposed to have some sort of entrance beginning outside. On the news. Poppy Playtime had a really big problem with parents a few months back, and the game was often actually put on national television with people warning parents about the game, and more specifically the character Huggy Wuggy. This got so serious, in fact, that there were real claims of people even harming themselves in the name of the game and these characters. We don't know the validity of these claims, however they were put all around the news at the time, scaring parents away from the game. The original Poppy story. Upon opening up Poppy Playtime, we're given a little bit of backstory to the game. This backstory just tells us everything we need to know about the employees being missing, but apparently they're still there, blah blah blah. You've probably heard it a million times. However, there was actually a slightly different epilogue used in the original build of the game that instead reads, "You are an ex-employee of Playtime Co. 10 years ago, Playtime was the king of the toy manufacturing industry. One morning, feeling ill, you decided to take a sick day. The next morning when you showed up for work, military vehicles guarded the outside of the building. Apparently, while you were out sick, every single person inside of the factory vanished into thin air. Now, 10 years later, you're returning for a visit." Poppy Playtime VR. In the previously mentioned Poppy Playtime Kickstarter, it was teased that after the game was completed, there would actually be a VR port of Poppy Playtime. They have not spoken on this ever since, however, I wonder if it's still something they're planning on working working on in the future. Cassie Cutie Pillar. Cassie Cutie Pillar was the original name of PJ Pugapillar from chapter 2, but before release she was turned into the male character that we now know. Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is a controversial self-help entrepreneur and is actually officially banned from the Poppy Playtime Discord. So that's it, guys. That's the entire Poppy Playtime iceberg. Let me know how many stages you were able to go down in the iceberg, and also comment the most obscure Poppy Playtime fact that you know, whether it be something from this iceberg or something completely random. Anyway, subscribe and peace.